Well, my name's Evan. I'm here from Branch Metrics to talk to you guys about instant apps and sort of juxtaposed with contextual deep linking, instant deep linking, which is a new product that we just released about a week or two ago. And first, some background on myself. My name's Evan Groth. I started building apps professionally in about 2013, but I really started digging into Android around 2010 or 11, back when I was living in New York. I eventually moved to San Francisco and joined a startup called ClassL. Did you guys ever have to use Blackboard when you were in college? Or some of you? Yeah, so we built like a better solution than Blackboard, but it's hard to penetrate the academic space because they all have sort of endless contracts with Blackboard and other companies. So we were eventually acquired by Branch Metrics in 2015, and I joined the company as an evangelist and sort of traveled and talked about their Android stuff. And then eventually I transitioned into product engineering because at the end of the day, coding stuff is more fun than talking about the stuff you code. I think so. And just some intro about Branch Metrics for those of you who aren't familiar. We're based out in Palo Alto. We've been in business for about 3 years. We raised our most recent round from Andy Rubin. He gave us about 60 million, and for those of you who don't know, he's a co-founder of Android. So I'd like to point out as a side note that the guy who co-founded Android is paying me to build Android products, which is pretty cool. It's a little not so humble brag. When I joined Branch, it was like 20-some employees. We're now at about 130, 150 employees. We have an office in New York, Berlin, and some other places I don't pay much attention to. We're in about 20,000 apps at this point. We were not in that many when I first joined. And we actually serve more than 2 billion deep links monthly. Our backend gets hit more often than Uber does at this point. So you guys have probably all clicked Branch links at this point without actually knowing it. And what is Branch? So how many of you guys are familiar with deep linking? All right, you got a hand in the back there. Got some more hands. All right, so Branch is sort of like deep linking on steroids. It's not like Bitly, where you get like a link where anyone who clicks it knows that it's a Bitly link. We offer you branded links. We also offer you attribution, so we help you understand the funnel of how someone ended up in your application, all the way from the content they viewed on your website to the content they viewed within your application. And we can take your users from web to app pretty instantaneously with one link that works on all platforms, whether it's Android, iOS, or maybe allegedly BlackBerry or Windows. I haven't checked our support for those recently. But Branch is basically a deep linking platform with branding and deferred deep linking and analytics and lots of other fun features. What makes us the best deep linking solution at this point is that we fingerprinted the most amount of devices, so we can deep link your users for you more accurately than any other company can. Even if a gargantuan tech giant tries to take us over, it would take them years of building up the data that we have to try and take us over. So we have some momentum. And at this point, over 40% of the top 200 apps are using Branch. So like I said before, you guys have clicked our links. If any of you use Tinder, when you share someone's profile, that's a Branch link. And an example of a customization feature we offer there is in Tinder, when you share links out to other people to show someone a profile, the links actually die after 1 hour because we don't want someone's profile to be indexed and crawled and shared throughout the entire internet. So there's lots of customization features you get with your Branch deep links. So the problem and the solution. Native apps are basically cut off from the world. There's not really an easy way for your marketing people to drive users into your application when it comes to carrying context through. So if they want to run a specific campaign on the internet, which they also want to view within your application, that's a bit difficult without deep linking or without Branch. And deep links are sort of everywhere these days. When you're Googling stuff, you're getting deep links in return. When companies are emailing you, they're sending you deep links. Social ads, you're clicking on Facebook and Instagram, they're using deep links. Paid search ads, and then content people are sharing out from their application to other people are deep links. So when your friend says to you, like, you need to see this pair of shoes on Zappos, and they send you a link for that, that's a Branch link. Or in many cases, in some cases deep link, but in many cases a special Branch link. The special thing about deep links is just that when someone downloads your application and they're met with a regular onboarding flow, they're not that likely to provide you with their information and be converted as a user. What makes deep links special is that you can bring someone into an application in a specific location. You can customize their experience. So as they enter the application from the link their friend sent them, it can say like, hey, your friend Evan referred you, click here to register. And because they're familiar with the process, they know who their friend Evan is and that he or she uses the application, they're actually twice as likely to sign up with your application. So at the very least, if you're trying to grow your application, you guys should be doing custom onboarding. Engagement doubles when people are brought to a customized screen or when they're brought to the content they expected to see. So one of our products is a banner you can put on your website. And when a user clicks that banner on your website on their phone, they'll be taken to download your application. And then when the app opens up, they'll be shown the same content that they're reviewing on the website that banner was placed on. So when people are when people are familiar with the flow as to how they entered your application, they're much more likely to not just sign up, not just engage, but to come back and use it again. So it's all around sort of just a no-brainer to use deep links these days if you're trying to drive users into your application. So I'll tell you guys a bit about the deep linking standards on Android over the time, which is URI schemes and stuff. But just to show you the flow, how deep links work. So you click a link. If no app is installed, you're taken to the App Store, and then you're taken to app content. If the app is installed, you're taken to the app content. Branch has a cool solution for users who are clicking your links on desktop, because we don't just support iOS and Android. We also want to support your users who are clicking links on actual computers. In that case, they'll be taken to a Text Me the App page. What makes Branch really cool, and I'll get into as well, is that if the user does not have the application installed and you send them a link, we can carry data through the install process, which is how we turn deep links into a growth tool for your users to kind of grow your app for you. So originally on Android, and this was before iOS, Android had URI scheme deep linking. Did you guys use Android long enough, like back in the day, so that you could type like FB:// in your Chrome browser and it would launch Facebook? So anyone ever? Okay, got a few nods. So that was sort of the original form of deep linking on Android. And it evolved over time. Chrome Intents came out. The problem with just the regular FB:// URI scheme deep linking on Android was that if the user didn't have the application installed, you needed some sort of mechanism to fall back to, like another website to redirect them to, or a pop-up of some kind. So Chrome Intents came about. And then eventually Android app links came about. They were sort of the answer to Apple's universal links. And URI scheme deep links, the way they work is your friend would text you a deep link, or you would type FB:// in a browser. But either way, the redirection at some point required interaction with a browser. So eventually, Google came out with Android app links, which you can click, and they actually issue an OS-level redirect. So from your SMS application, an application is launched natively on your phone. There's no Chrome pop-up, which then launches an application natively on your phone. Android app links, like I said, they go straight to the app. They require Android 6.0 and above, which I'm sure most people in this room are on or above at this point. They're not cross-platform, so there's some fallbacks to them. And as I said before, they mimic the functionality of Apple's universal links. And the logic there is the app installed? Open it directly. Otherwise, open a web link. So again, some fallback behavior is offered there to safely guide your users to where you want them to be guided. So after 6 becomes more popular, you'll basically only need to support Android app links. But for the time being, it's important for your deep linking solution to support URI scheme deep linking and Android app links. Even though URI scheme deep linking is inferior, as you guys know as Android developers, like you never know what kind of device your users are running, what country they're in, how old their hardware is, how bad their connection is. So you just have to support everything in Android, which we do for you. The juggling act. Another thing about deep linking on Android and iOS and all the platforms we interact with is that they're all different and they're constantly changing. There's like Twitter cards, Facebook has their own way of doing redirection. And these platforms, as they evolve, they more and more so do not really want people to leave them. So it's like every few months, like the Twitter app will patch itself on iOS so that links are suddenly opened within a browser within the application, like an internal web view or something like that, instead of a Chrome pop-up, which we can redirect from. So things change constantly, and that's sort of a big job at Branch for our engineers, is to maintain the quality of our system by testing these things out, which I promise we do sometimes. What about iOS? I always say I did not add this slide because I don't know anything about iOS, but what I can tell you is that deep linking on iOS is even more of a pain. I worked on integration engineering for a bit at Branch, so I got to see the problems people wrote into us about, and like 90% of our tickets were about Apple's universal links, which should not concern you guys. But the good news of that is that we sort of make the universal link setup for your iOS app really easy. We make the app link setup for your Android app really easily. And your one branch link will function as a universal link on iOS, and on Android it'll function as a Google app link. Android app link. And so how many of you guys have tried building an instant app? Anyone? Yeah? So we have my colleague back there. So how many of you guys are familiar with instant apps? Few people, yeah, same people who built them. So we recently built an instant app integration, which we're really excited about. We were lucky enough to get access to Google's beta through our partner Ticketmaster, and we're able to build an integration with them directly, which I'll show you guys in a bit. But basically, instant app, deep linking to instant apps is, again, a no-brainer for a lot of companies, but especially e-commerce apps. If your app is selling something, you don't really need someone to install your full app. You can just have them click a link, show them the product, offer them a buy now button, and the process is done. And Google actually has some lightweight SDKs for doing wallet type of activities within your instant application. So an important UX consideration, something that we learned. So I told you guys earlier, branch links pass data through the install process. So if you send your friend a branch link for Tinder and they don't have Tinder installed, there are a few options that you can configure the link to do. The first thing is you can have the link route them to either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, have them download Tinder, and then Tinder will open up directly to that profile you wanted your friend to see in the first place. The problem with this redirection flow is that oftentimes people don't know what's going on when their friend sends them a link and it takes them to the Play Store. It's kind of confusing. There's no way that they're going to know that data is being passed through this process and that they'll eventually see what they want to see. So eventually we realized that we needed to give users an understanding of what was happening after they clicked a deep link for an application that they had not installed previously. So a while ago, Branch came out with a cool feature called Deep Views. And Deep Views are just automatically generated tiny little websites that provide your users with a preview of the content they're going to see once they download your application. The content in this view is rendered from OG tags, Open Graph tags, which is like what Facebook and social platforms use these days. So you just populate your link with your Open Graph information, and then once it's shared to someone who doesn't have the application installed, they're shown a preview, and it's like, oh, okay. This is well, in this example, this is the sound pack that I wanted to download. I don't actually know what that is. But maybe it was the pair of Zappos shoes you wanted to buy. And now that you see like, oh, okay, I'm being taken to an app and this is the piece of content I'll be viewing within it, we found that by offering this to people, drop-off rates went from something like 90% from taking them to the App Store to about 40 to 50%. So it just greatly increased the likelihood of converting your user from someone who just clicked a link to someone who's actively using your app. We're limited in Deep Views in the sense that it's just a website. We can't do anything native with applications. We can't sideload the device with a small slice of code, but Google can. So eventually, Google came out with instant apps. And I've asked this question before in my talks, but like, are there any Redditors in the room? Yeah, a few. So how long would you guys say you wait when clicking a piece of content for it to load? 2 seconds. Yeah, it's like, we've done studies to prove this, or you can just watch me use a computer. No one has patience anymore. And so instant apps are a huge problem solver in that sense, because redirecting people to stuff, whatever you're going to redirect them to, it needs to be instantaneous, or as quick as it can be. And with instant apps, you can load a fraction of your application instantaneously onto someone's device once they click one of your deep links. And what's cool about our deep links is they let you carry context into these instant apps, so you can show them specific pieces of content instantaneously from a link they clicked on the web. And I promise you the load time will be less than 3 seconds. And this is something, we have a new feature called Instant Deep Links. No other company is offering this at this point. I'm sure they will eventually after I give this talk. But my colleague in the back, Sojin, came up with a way to deliver link payloads instantaneously from Chrome to your application. So it's deferred deep links. The case where the person does not have your application installed, this does not apply. But when someone has an application already installed and they click a link for it from Chrome, the application will load on your phone and the payload from the link will be delivered within 0 milliseconds, which is awesome. There's no more worry about the user's connection. I'm sure you guys have experienced a million times. You're walking around the city and you're doing something on your phone and suddenly you just can't load the most basic things. This obviously applies to querying deep link data. So now anywhere you are in the city or at your apartment, if your Wi-Fi sucks, it doesn't really matter anymore. If you're using Branch and clicking links from Chrome, they will always be instantaneous. So the callback within your application where you grab your JSON object, which contains your key value pairs from the link that was clicked, will be returned to you instantly. And as of a few days ago, I believe a few days ago, we've rolled this out to 100% of our users. So you guys might have already clicked instant deep links at this point and not have been aware. You might have been impressed by the speed, though. I don't know. I don't know what your guys' standards are. So this is Jeff from Ticketmaster. If you guys just want to read a quote from a lead developer at Ticketmaster about instant apps. Ticketmaster has found a lot of success in building instant apps because they're an e-commerce platform. They're trying to sell things quickly. You know, they want you in and out. The experience does not need to be drawn out, elongated. We've been working with Jeff, and although I like to poke fun at this, although he says that you definitely don't need a specific separate team to implement instant apps, you definitely need like a specific smart person at your company to work on it because it's changing constantly and they have to keep track of it. I don't know the size of your guys' companies, but if I were you, I might wait like another month or two before delving into instant apps. It's changed a lot since we've been working on it, and it can be a bit of a pain. So instant apps, the evolution. The cool thing about instant apps is you get to show people a fraction of your application or a feature before the install process occurs. And this link right here is just something I sent myself on Slack. And when I click it, I'm taken immediately to this view of my little DroidCon 2017 monster. Another cool thing about using Branch, and I mentioned this later on, is that instant apps are only supported currently on Android, I believe, 7 and 8. I personally have only gotten my instant apps to work correctly on 8. So the cool thing about Branch and the aforementioned Deep View product is that you can have users fall back to Deep Views if they're on versions of Android which do not support instant apps yet. So you can still give them a preview of the content they're going to see before they're taken to their full application. Benefits of instant apps, as I mentioned, there's reduced friction. You know, the biggest problem that any of us have with growing our applications is friction. You just kind of want to get people in the, well, I guess retention is a pretty big one too, but you really want to get people in the door. You don't want to have them, you know, tell you all about themselves and fill out form after form after form. You just want to get them in the application, and with instant apps, you can do that pretty immediately. Another cool thing, and I think it's every engineer's dream, is just that you get automatic native functionality. Within the experience, you're no longer using an automatically generated website. You can run native code, and I'll show you guys permissions at the end of this talk to give you an idea of what kind of native code you can run. But there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do with instant apps. They're useful, in my opinion, in the sense that you can boost select content. So you can, if you want to, route all of your users to the same piece of content in your instant app before going to your full app if you don't want to do contextual deep linking. This gives you an opportunity to sort of promote specific content. You could also just promote content within the application based on what you already know about the user. But it gives you a powerful interstitial with native functionality to boost whatever you want to boost. And I like to say that we help you subvert the rightfully paranoid Android owner. I don't know how many of you guys install things and then the next day you're like, why the hell is my phone dying constantly? So you just uninstall whatever you installed the day before. I personally hate installing things as an app developer. And I say it's because I know what apps are capable of. But with instant apps, you can kind of get more people to load your code onto their device and get more people involved, people who might not have necessarily installed the entire application. So instant apps with Branch. The instant app and Branch integration allows you to actually pass context from initial link click to the instant application, to the Play Store, to the full application. So it's a flow where you can carry context through the entire way. And because you can carry context through the entire way, between all of those phases, you can also track conversions for the entire picture. We give you an understanding of, again, going all the way from link click to full application and sort of what context drove that person there. And you can also fall back to deep views if the OS doesn't support it. and you can sort of understand and begin to capitalize on what brings users into your application. A cool thing about Branch is that we're not just offering you these deep linking mechanisms, we're also giving you a dashboard that gives you a breakdown of how your links are doing. So we can show you that like the advertisement that you created on Facebook and put a deep link behind, well, that campaign drove you like 300 installs and 200 of them were Android, and this was the content they saw, and this is the funnel, the breakdown of how users got into the application. So we really help you measure exactly in a pretty granular manner how your application is growing, more so than the Play Store. I haven't checked recently what information it gives you, but the last app I published, it would tell me like by country which devices installed my app that day, which didn't really help me understand how the hell my application was growing. So we help you understand how your Instant app is growing as well. So how does it work? Technology-wise, we use probabilistic matching for the Instant app. So when someone clicks a link, we gather metrics about their device, screen density, operating system, IP address, things like that. And as I said before, we have so much data. We have so much data on the links you guys have clicked that our probabilistic matching is really high. We can really determine exactly who you are when you click a Branch link, even if it's been a while since you clicked one or it's an application you've never used before. And then we take the context and we have a function in our SDK. I think it's mentioned here. I'll mention it next. So eventually, data gets passed through to the full application, and then the Play Store uses the install listener and broadcasts that information to your application, and then our code parses it out. Has anyone here by any chance used the install listener before on Android? All right, yeah, one back there. It's a little questionable. Sometimes it can take a while. Yeah, you guys have experienced that. It can take a few thousand milliseconds. Sometimes it can take a few hundred. Sometimes it won't pass data at all, but it's pretty reliable. There's a function in our SDK called showInstallPrompt, which calls Google showInstallPrompt and passes through the link data from the Instant app to the full application. So we're actually passing the link payload through to the Google Play Store, which then, once your application is installed, broadcasts it to your application. So while this all sounds a bit hackish, everything in mobile is hackish. I have no defense. And to give you guys an idea of the flow, deep linking from link click to full application. First, that link I clicked from Slack would show this screen. I'd be offered to open the application, open the actual application or view it on web. I select open application. It shows me my Monster and droidcon. I select install full app. I'm taken to the Play Store. I install the full application, and then I'm shown the same piece of content. So again, your user, things like this, I don't even know if your user is going to notice because people just assume that everything about computers is magic these days. But this is kind of magical. I mean, you get to show them the same information throughout the entire onboarding flow. They're never perplexed or confused. It's very simple. They get what's going on, and therefore they're literally twice as likely to actually come back and use your application again. Here's an example of Ticketmaster's Instant App integration. So they literally go from link click to the seat they want to buy, and then you just select buy now, and it's been added to your cart, and you're out of the application. So with Ticketmaster, you can now buy tickets from a link your friend sent you in 2 seconds flat, which is awesome and possible because of Google's great payment libraries and our integration into their great Instant App system. So I showed you guys Ticketmaster. I don't know if anyone's clicked links on Vimeo over the past few months. They've been using us for deep linking into a native video player. So instead of playing in a browser, they get to load a native player, which gives them more control over the video. We have an application in our Branch Metrics GitHub repo called Branch Monster Factory, which is an Instant App, and you can begin to see how we pass data from Instant App to full app. And then, of course, the next Branch Instant App integration could be your app. And I just want to tell you guys if you delve into Instant App development, there are some things I want you guys to know about. The first thing is app version. Every person I've met who develops Instant Apps has run into this. So when you guys develop a regular app, and say you upload version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the next day you download that regular full app, your device will be sent version 5 from the Play Store. But with Instant Apps, your version might be sent version 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And then it might cache that version, and every time you upload a new version and test the next day, you might still be testing version number 3. So just as a little life pro tip, if you go into Google settings within your device and toggle Instant Apps off, then back on, your device will then cache the latest version from the Play Store the next time you click a deep link for an instant app. I reported this to Google, and it's currently expected behavior. So we're hoping that in the future, it becomes less expected behavior. There's another error message that you might run into when uploading your Instant App to the Play Store, and that is ensure that the targeting of your Instant App APKs matches targeting of your APKs. And so I kept making sure that like my target SDK version and min SDK version and all those things you would think to check were the same, and they were. And it took me a while to figure out that because my full app had an activity set to portrait, in my Instant App, I had to actually say uses feature portrait false. And because I was monitoring network state for dropped and gained connections in my full app, I had to say uses feature Android hardware Wi-Fi false in my Instant App. And then I was able to upload to the Play Store. That one, I don't even think I found that one on Stack Overflow. Maybe I did. I'm not sure how else I would have solved that. But there's lots of little headaches here and there with Instant Apps, and I recommend Googling around and contributing so that it's better for all of us. Another thing I've experienced and that I believe Google's currently working on, I've been going back and forth with them on this, is instant app routing is different on 7 versus 8. Everything so far that I've built works for me perfectly on 8, but I can't quite figure out their deep link routing on 7. And I've had a few other engineers at the company build instant apps who have run into the same issues. And a few other speakers who have done instant app talks have had similar issues. So I would imagine it's something that's still being worked on. But again, I would test on 8 if you're building a new instant app. And then the last thing, just limited permissions. In an instant app, you don't get access to all of Android's functionality. But with billing and location access, there's tons of stuff you can do, so you shouldn't worry about it too much. And another restriction, in addition to permission limitations, is size. I believe instant apps can only be a few megabytes. I forget the actual size. I think it was mentioned at the JET talk, which I've attended twice now, and I can't remember it. But yeah, your permissions are limited on instant apps. And if you guys would like to check us out today, you can go to branch.app.link/droidconsf. We have an integration challenge going on right now, which basically just consists of you integrating the Branch SDK into an application, whether it's an already existing application or a Hello World application. And we have company hoodies at our booth for anyone who is able to complete the challenge. And if you have trouble, stop by and I'll walk you through the rest of it. And thank you very much.